The two Mrs. Nahasapeemapetilons is a really interesting episode of The Simpsons to watch in hindsight. I can't really say too much about that with the risk of spoiling future episodes, just in case for some reason you don't know what happens after this one. But certainly, it's a very different viewing experience. Not that I really remember it before the episodes that after this, because obviously growing up watching it on Channel 4 or whatever, the order was very haphazard. I would be curious to know what you thought of this episode, if you remember seeing this before future episodes. Hopefully you'll know what I mean when I say that. This is the 7th episode of the 9th season of The Simpsons, directed by Stephen Dean Moore. And in this one, Apu has received a letter saying that it's time for him to get married. And there is an arranged marriage. This marriage has been in place since he was quite young. And Apu really desperately doesn't want to go through with this arranged marriage. And somehow he and Homer concoct a plan that they will pretend when his mother visits that he is actually already married to Marge. And that seems like a terrible idea, but it's very fun to see it playing out because you can just see the beads of sweat on Apu's face as he's just waiting for the truth to be revealed to his mother. And I'd say it's quite an unpredictable episode. There's a quite funny moment with Homer in the care home where he definitely shouldn't have been. So there's some comedy in it, but I think maybe it can spark some discussions about arranged marriages, but it doesn't take a stance. This episode never says arranged marriages are a bad thing, and I'm stressing this because certainly more recently The Simpsons has been called out for being racist, partly because of the fact that Apu was not voiced by an Indian, which is something that I believe has changed now, but certainly at the time, with hindsight, it's caused a lot of backlash, and this episode could potentially be read the wrong way as being anti-arranged marriage because of how Apu has instantly rejected it and said, I'm not going through with this, I don't want to, but actually, with what happens after it, and actually when he meets Manjula, his wife for the arranged marriage, it's very clear to see that the episode isn't saying this is anti-arranged marriage, but I do think it is saying maybe you need to not just assume that people are going to want to marry the person they had a dowry agreement with 10 years ago, however long it's been. So it's definitely food for thought, but I just wanted to stress the fact that it doesn't ever say arranged marriages are terrible, they don't work, we don't care if this is your culture, we're going to say no. It doesn't do that. But again, yeah, of course, with hindsight, there are certain things that the show wouldn't do now that it did then. Nevertheless, I think the two Mrs. Nahasapeemapetilons is a pretty good episode, definitely a lot of food for thought there, introducing us to the character of Manjula, which of course becomes very important later on. I think she's quite a nice character, in fact I took to her very well. I think she's got a really great personality, and yeah, fits into this episode very nicely. His mother is certainly an interesting character. It's worth pointing out, just in light of what I've just discussed, that his mother is voiced by Andrea Martin, and Manjula is voiced by Jan Hooks. I'm not sure who does the voicing at the moment, but I know that those things have changed. Which makes sense, it is a product of its time, but honestly the episode is not too bad at all. I think it's a pretty decent episode that really makes fun more at Apu's ridiculous notion of trying to trick his mother into thinking Marge is his wife with his very yellow children, but that sounded more racist than I meant it to. The colour of Lisa and Bart would not be what it would be if they were his children, I'm assuming. I don't know how it works with the colour of the Simpsons' yellow skin. Nevertheless, pretty interesting episode, really enjoy it, lays the foundations for more to come. Yep, with the benefit of hindsight, it's not perfect, but I certainly don't think it's as problematic as some people are making it out to be. 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb is not a terrible rating at all. Definitely not a personal favourite from the whole show, but certainly I don't mind watching it.